it's a lot of mixed emotions. I still remember when we closed the round, when we raised our pre-seed round of 190K, it was such a mixed feeling because I was also scared, because you start realizing that it's another person's money, it's not your money. So someone else is taking a bet on you, and it's like $200,000 is not a small amount, right? So there was a point of time where I was very scared. I'm like, how am I going to make this work? What if I fail? What if this whole thing just burns in ashes? But you soon realize that the longer you stay in that feeling, it's definitely going to happen. And being a part of a team makes it good because you can always speak to other founders. Like, I feel being a solo founder is tough. And I usually say, don't do it if it's a solo founder, but everyone has their preferences. But since then, it's been great. We've been speaking to a lot of users, because as a startup, that's the only way you're going to win, is by keeping the users and the users at the center of your problem, like keeping the problem in mind, keeping the users in mind, and building product around that. And it's just been a lot of coding, a lot of investor meetings. I try to sleep whenever I can, to find a few hours every now and then. So literally half an hour before this call, I was taking a nap because I didn't sleep. So that's how that's how it is right now. So you have to learn to prioritize sleep. It's important, but yeah, you just got to figure it out how it's going. But it's been fun so far.
Well, I believe that sleep is something on which only I can relate to you, because I also just had a nap and trying to find sleep here and there. So yeah, it's been like that. So before co-founding EZiD, what other ventures you had made, and how had they been? Like, what you all learned from that also, and
Yeah,
how that helped you in building EZiD a better product.
sure. So I moved to Australia in 2017 to a university called University of Wollongong, and I went there as an international student, and I was very like, I remember when I went as an international student, I did not know anything that happened on campus. Like, I didn't know what the food was. I did not know what is happening. You have to figure out, you have to make new friends, and you have university going on, you have exams going on, and you got to figure all this out. So I remember that was the first time where I felt this problem of, as an international student, I'm sure I'm not the only one figuring this out. Like, there are other people who are in the same pain as me. And I built a smaller version of Zomato back in Australia. Like, by the way, surprisingly, not a lot of people use Zomato in Australia. So I tried using it, and the app was kind of empty. So I'm like, okay, let me just try building something out for myself, because I don't know what the restaurants are. I don't know what the menus are. And me as an international student, I want to know how to get around here. So I built that for myself. I built an MVP out in like 2 weeks, the iOS and Android MVP. And I went and spoke to every restaurant on campus. The first mistake I did over there was, when I went and spoke to every restaurant on campus, I went and told them, hey, there's this amazing app, you should come and join it. And they all told me, like, just walk away. Like, stop wasting my time. And I'm like, oh, okay. But then you soon realize that customers don't really care what you have to give them. They only care about if you listen to their problem. So I changed my approach, and I went to every restaurant. I'm like, hey, what's your problem? And then they started telling me, they're like, oh, I want to reach out to more customers. I want to speak to more people. I want more students coming here. And once they feel like you heard them and you understood their problem, and then give them a solution, chances of them trying you out a lot higher. So that is my first learning in building this thing. Also, when you build a marketplace application where you have to match supply and demand, the thing is, you have to build one side first, and you cannot do both at once. So you cannot say, I need restaurants and people. How do I get them at the same time? So what I did was pretty much took the same approach Zomato took. I went to every restaurant, I took pictures of every menu, and I put this on my system. And I found events, like, I'm like, what's the easiest way to get multiple students once? So in universities, you have like ethnic day, you have so many festivals happening, and those are the best chance to go and speak to university students. So that's where I would go and promote this app. It was very funny because you'd see like 100 students and everyone's doing something, and you just see me with a backpack, and I didn't have many friends then. I just go give my like paper to them. Hey, can you please download my app if you have, like, if you want to know anything new on campus, they'll help you figure it out. But that grew really well, and that became like the top 45 app in Australia. It was ahead of KFC, Domino's, McDonald's, all these kind of big brands over there. And so I was a solo founder over there, right? So that's when I realized that I don't like doing solo founding stuff, because I was managing everything. So any bug fixes, tech updates, product, speaking to users, it all came onto me. And the thing is, within the first 8 months, you would see traction fall. Like you keep seeing traction fall, right? So that's when you got to start thinking about, whenever you build a company, you got to think of, or even a project, if you have something in mind, how do you scale a project? It's not just what it's for now, but you got to think in terms of, where will this company be, or where will this project be in the next 3 to 4 years, right? If that's what you kind of do. I couldn't think from the past 8 months. I'm like, how do I grow this? Like, I had no idea. I'm like, if I just go to another campus, it'll be the same thing. Within 3 months, student will figure out everything, traction will dip. I have to keep going to new people, new campuses. But eventually I just decided to shut that down, because I'm like, I don't want to be a solo founder anymore. It's not fun. So that was my first learnings over there, which I took to my second startup. It was exactly a year later, which was in esports back in Dubai with the two of my friends. And there you have another marketplace problem. So I'll tell you one more thing. Sorry. Uh, so the first problem, it is a problem I felt personally. Okay, sorry for the random noise, by the way. For the first problem, I felt the problem personally. For the second problem, which was around gaming, I did not feel the problem personally. I am not a gamer. I used to be one, but my friends are crazy gamers. So what happens in UAE is that you have to follow 20 to 30 different social media accounts on Instagram to get tournament updates, right? And they will post a picture, there's a Fortnite tournament happening, and then they won't give any information. And my friends are like, dude, like, then they have to go comment. So what Instagram cafes used to do is, like, they want to grow engagement, so they wouldn't give all the information. So people is like, hey, when's the tournament? What can I, like, give me the prize? And they would only give half information like this. So when my friends told me this, I'm like, oh, you know what? I can actually build something for you guys to help you guys make it quite easy. So I remember I wrote a scraper that literally scraped through data of Instagram, picked everything up. And whatever data I didn't have, I would call the gaming cafe up manually. And I'm like, hey, can I just get this information? Because I just need to give it to my friends. I want it, right? They're like, sure. So I took information from 5 cafes, like 5 tournaments, and I built an iOS and Android. I actually got Fred help from my friend to build the Android app out. And so I remember designing the UI UX with my friends, because they are gamers. I'm like, how do you want it to look? Because I have no idea how this is meant to be. What the ideas what information is important all came from them. So I designed this app, and we're like, let's publish this. And we thought within the first month we would have around 5 gaming cafes who would like, hey, we would like to join you guys, and around 50 users. That was the target we were hitting, our KPIs. That's what we thought. That when we launched it, within the first week we had 800 users and 50 gaming cafes on board, because every gamer felt the same problem, and I had no idea about this. So my learning there was, the second thing I realized is that if you're building a solution for a problem that you don't personally face, you should have someone who faces the problem as a core team member. So you can't go build a problem by looking at someone else, or they have a problem, but I want to build a solution for that. But the thing is, you'll never be able to build a good product, because first, you don't understand the problem yourself. You don't feel the pain yourself. Second, the people who feel the pain are not in the core team of your product. So who are you listening to? Like, where's your product user feedback coming from, right? So that grew. That became absolutely massive. We had around 4,000 users within the first month. We were the only app or company in the country that did online registrations. Because what we realized is that every gamer in Dubai was mostly under 18. So that means they don't have a driving license. So what cafes used to do is that they would put a gaming tournament 3 weeks in advance, and they like hope to fill, like, they would like, let's put it 3 weeks in advance. So they would fill the seats out. But when we saw this, we were like, oh, why don't we start registering ourselves through our app? And we sold out. I remember when we held a Fortnite tournament this way, and a cafe that had 100 seats would take 3 weeks to fill out. We filled out 100 seats in like 4 minutes, because we enabled people to be able to do this everything online by understanding problem through my friends, through the gamers. And that grew really well for 8-9 months. It came to a stage where we were considering fundraising, but due to personal reasons, we decided not to take that forward. And that was it. Came back to Australia, joined a company where I worked as a software engineer, my first software engineering job, to be honest. my friend Sagar, who's on the call as well. That's where I met him. That's where he was my buddy for the first time, where he was helping me, like taking me around and everything. And I remember a year and a half later telling him, hey, I might quit because I want to. Actually, I didn't even tell him I was quitting. He was surprised when I quit my job. And then I went and joined. Then I went and joined Antler in Antler, Australia, which is another accelerator. Got selected over there, and then I met Prashant and Jason, and then we built EZiD from there. And today, here we are, $190,000 raised so far, and we're hoping to close another $1 million USD by end of April. So yeah, it's been fun.
That's an absolutely great number and an absolutely inspiring story. So like I say, even for a tech company or even for a tech person who's having the talent and the solution to a problem, what I learned was that one would have to approach themselves to people. One would have to reach out to them to, provide the solution. First of all, identify the problem they're facing, or maybe ask them. Like one would have to, do the groundwork and approach to connect to people, even
Yeah,
for a tech startup, right?
absolutely. I think what you said is right. Like you can't sit and expect things to happen. You have to put yourself out there. And when you reach more people, when you speak to more people, especially people who are out of your network, like you have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, and that's where you learn a lot. It can happen anywhere, but it was a very fun experience when you even speak to gamers. A lot of gamers told us to get out. I remember one gaming cafe actually tried suing us, which was hilarious. But yeah, that's a whole other story to that. But it's okay. Like I really believe that you should move fast and don't be shy to build something shitty, because that's the whole point of an MVP. Like your whole idea of an MVP is like it should just work. It doesn't care how bad it looks.
Yes.
It doesn't need to be perfect. You put it out there, it breaks you, it's fine. You iterate, you fix, you iterate, you fix, you iterate, you fix, and then you build a good product.
Yes. So as you also mentioned that you met your co-founders in Antler. Uh, According to you, like how important these accelerator programs and fellowships become? Like, do you think they would actually help all the entrepreneurs around there who might not have heard about these accelerator programs, or you think like this is something just an add-on in your life, not exactly something a must?
I wouldn't say it's a must, but I would say it has very high benefits. Like I'll be hypocritical if I say it's bad and I went through it. So I wouldn't say it's bad. Like it's really good. It really helps. But I'd say that you have to look at how your friend groups are, right? Like my friend group back in Dubai was very entrepreneurial. Like they were like, let's just do shit. That's how it was. And if you have a friend group like that, then I would say you don't need to look for co-founders. You can actually just work with your friends, because those are the best people to work with. Because you have great understanding, you already have chemistry. You don't have to worry. If you'll have fights, you all can de-escalate really quickly. But where Antler really helped is like in Australia, I'll be very honest, I had a very small number of friends over there, but I wanted to meet people who pushed me a lot more, who had different thinking. And I really like, obviously, I'm like, I want to figure this out. So I joined Antler, and I didn't know who I'd meet, because you go in and meet a lot of different people, right? There are 80 different people, and you click with some, you don't click with some. But what the great thing about Antler is that it gives you access to 80 different people at once in such a short amount of time that I don't think I'd meet otherwise. Like I remember being in the room with 79 other people and just thinking I'm the dumbest over here. Like everyone is incredibly smart. I'm like, how would I ever met them? Like there was this one guy who wrote an entire um, payment stack from scratch, which is patented. There's another guy who was one of the early members of Rocket Internet, and his first startup was actually funded by Atari. Like you meet amazing people over there, and I'm just like, how do you? And another person who's just like, yeah, you just meet these amazing people over there. So I'm like, I don't think I'd ever meet them. But that's where these accelerators enable you to meet such amazing people. And the next thing is funding, right? Like I really believe that if you start a company, you should start a company on other people's money. It's just a rule that I feel like if you want to take a risk at first, do it. Like that's how I jumped off. I had my savings, and I'm like, I'm gonna use my savings over here and invest as much as I can. But in order to scale, I always say use other people's money because it's less riskier that way. And some people like investing, so take their money and do it. So if you have a chance to be a part of an accelerator, a fellowship, definitely do it, because first, you have nothing to lose, you have everything to gain. You're only going to meet better people than you, right?
Yeah.
That's the best thing you should look for. You should always be the dumbest in the room. And I say that proudly. Like, if you go to a fellowship, go find people who are better than you, be friends with them, not for the sole purpose of exploiting them or trying to get something out of them, but genuinely want to be friends with them. And you never know where that leads you.
Yes, absolutely. And even at Xartup, we are promoting the same, like people interact with each other more and more and like build a network. And you never know when you
Yeah.
can find a co-founder one day.
Surprisingly, you never know what hits. Like, just put yourself
Yes,
out there and opportunities come. That's very true.
absolutely. And so, as you said about taking risks, so I personally believe like putting out your saving and using it is one of the biggest risks in someone's for an entrepreneur. But what has been your biggest risk you have ever taken, and the biggest risk EZiD has taken till now?
That's a deep question. Uh, I don't want to sound cliche, but
No,
honestly, I didn't feel that using my savings or starting this was a risk. It felt very natural to me. Like, I think that's because I come from a family who's been very entrepreneurial. I've seen my dad, like, have his own, like, start his something for himself, multiple. He failed in a few ventures. He did good in a few ventures. I saw my mom try something out. I saw my uncle try something out. My brother try something out. My friends try something out. So for me, it just felt like a natural incline. I'm like, oh yeah, cool, let's do this. I didn't tell my parents though until I think 4 months after I quit my job, I told my parents because I didn't know how they would react. Because I do understand always parents are like, they come from the best this thing, like, oh, work, do all these things later, don't take this risk and everything. So I didn't know how they would react. But I did tell them 4 months later and they were quite good. So me personally, I don't see it as a risk. What I did, I just think like it's felt very natural to me. I'm like, I just had to do it. I felt, even when I put in my resignation, you can ask my friends, I was incredibly happy. I was so excited. Not because I resigned. I'm also at the same time like, shit, I'm going to do something for myself. So that really excited me. I think for EZiD, the biggest risk we took is the direction we chose to go for. I remember when we started this, like, I mean, wow, we just started even actually, it's still very young. But in the initial stages, we were trying to solve the marketplace problem again because we want to do something. We were planning to take a different approach at first, but we just said that, you know what, let's just keep our heads down and go down this passwordless authentication route for the next 8 months. And if it doesn't work and we're halfway through all our money, then we'll pivot and go back to something else. And we were literally thinking to tackle the marketplace both at the same time. We're like, no, we have to do it in order to grow, or else we're going to be out competed by competition. Or we're like, let's not take the marketplace approach and let's go to something that's a bit different, but in the future, grow the network that it becomes a marketplace, like 6-7 years down the line. And we had that option in front of us where all the investors were like, marketplace, 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 marketplace. But Prashant, Jason, and like, maybe it's not the right answer,
right.
even though you get a lot of external voices. So we decided not to go down that route. And it turned out to be the best in our favor. Like, right now, I would say we just went live 2 weeks ago. And it's amazing because we were just talking to the CTO who went live with us. And just last night, we got the stats. They have, so in 14 days, they've had an increase of customers by 180 customers just through using our APIs. And we've already seen like an uptake of 30% what's happening on their website because of using us. And these are metrics we knew it would happen, but we thought it'd take like 3 months, 4 months, but this happened in 14 days. And we're like, what? And we have 3 other businesses that are going to go live with us very soon. And with our same approach we've just taken, we've also crossed the 100 businesses waiting on a waitlist mark, which is surprising to us again. So that was a big risk we thought we would take, but we kind of had conviction that it might work out. But you always have, what if it does not? But when you have those options, you got to go with either what the team feels, and if you feel otherwise, you still have to trust the team. And you're like, you know what, if it doesn't work out, you can't point finger at your team member saying, hey, because if you didn't work out, it didn't work out because it didn't work out. And then you figure it out why it didn't work out, and you pivot and you try something else. But so far, we've been lucky in that sense that it worked out. It's still working out. And now when we are raising money, we're telling investors like, dude, we have so many people wanting to use us, but we can't even move that fast because we don't have the capacity to move so fast. We're like just 3 of us, 2 engineers, Prashant and I, and we're just like, yes, let us do as much as we can. So I would say that risk kind of worked out for us, but I'm hoping it keeps working out.
Are you planning to scaling up and like increasing your team, growing your team, or
Yeah, absolutely. We are we already have a few interns. Surprisingly, we have a few interns. We've contracted some work out, but everything, APIs and everything, has been built in house because the founding team believes that your initial product should never be outsourced if it's a technical product, because you should learn how to build it if you're a technical team. Second, we are integrating with our customers, with our beta users, right? So literally, I have code bases and I'm integrating with them, and I'm trying to learn at the same time because I'm reading the documentation Prashant wrote. I'm implementing it. Then I'm taking the data back to Prashant. I'm like, hey, this documentation is not good. Let's change something. So we keep iterating that feedback loop over there, because when our documentation goes out to another dev, they should not feel the problems we felt while we're doing this. But with the fundraising we have, the idea is to hire 7 engineers, 2 product managers, a few dev relationship managers, and a few marketing and sales people. So yeah, it's definitely a time to we have to scale, but that money is only going to last us 14 months, and then we got to raise a bigger round. So yeah.
well, absolutely hopeful for that. So, and I'm sure you're gonna raise a lot of money from that too, considering your crazy numbers you have achieved in such less time.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
scary and fun at the same time.
it's scary. But yeah, one would have to agree. It's all the hard work you've put in within these years. So yeah, I mean, that is one thing, like taking risk, and I also promote everyone to take risks and just give it a try, make mistakes, like you'll definitely fail at first, or you might not. You can get lucky, but yeah, that's how you will actually learn. So when you talk about, as you said that you decided to go with the idea of passwordless authentication. So how did you come up with the idea? Like who came up with the idea, and like was it something you have been thinking about for a long time, or it just came to you and you started working on it?
Yeah, I like this question because everyone asks oh, how do you come up with the idea? But the thing is, while I was building Gilo, I saw the problem of passwords personally, because I would have data analytics in it. I would see the number of times people would reset password flows and everything, but I never paid much attention to it. And the thing is, I always hated passwords in general, because I'm like, each time I go to a website, I'm like, oh my God, I have to create a new password. And I'm like, should I reuse the old password I'm using everywhere else, or should I create a new one? But if I create a new one, I won't remember the new one.
Right.
And I end up using the old one. But I'm like, if I'm using the old one, that means if one gets hacked, all of this is going to get hacked.
Exactly.
So the problem existed, but I didn't know how to solve it. I personally did not know how to solve it. So when I joined Antler on the first day, around 15 or 20 of us were meant to go for dinner, like people in the Antler cohort. And I remember in the last minute, everyone bounced, everyone just went. And then Prashant and I were just looking at each other, and Prashant's like, hey, do you have anything to do? I'm like, no. And I'm like, do you? And he's like, no. He's like, do you want to go grab coffee? So we went to Starbucks. We just sat there for a bit and we were just talking. We were getting to know each other. And that's where he showed me this prototype he had built, this passwordless prototype he had built, because he saw the problem in enterprise clients where he was leading the entire architecture team in an enterprise level. And he was looking for a passwordless solution back in 2017, but nothing existed then. And he's like, I would like to have a solution as well. So when I met Prashant in Antler, he had actually built a prototype that was passwordless. And we kind of clicked because we both really hated the problem. I'm like, yo, this prototype is sick. And he's like, absolutely. And we kind of clicked on the fact that we both hate passwords. But we still went and spoke to other founders, because Antler, it's always they say, don't lock yourself in the first day. Meet other people, because there are 79 other people, right? So you might not like the first idea you meet. Go speak to a lot of people. But what happened in Prashant and Jason and in my case is that even though we met a lot of people, every day we'd come back to each other and we'd be like, hey, so I was thinking more about this passwordless solution. And we kept speaking like this. So eventually it just became very natural that, yeah, we're going to end up working with each other because we really hated the problem. Like we really hated it. And each time, like actually yesterday, my mom's like, she forgot a password or something. I'm like, God damn it. I'm like, and she was like, can you change this password to me? I want to reset my password. And I'm like, you know what? I've got to figure out the day when my parents can log into a website without having to worry about like we've done. So that's the aim now, to build something where we don't have to think of stuff like that. So I didn't come up with it originally. Prashant came up with we all thought about it different times, but Prashant was the one who actually went and built an MVP out. And we took him and he still is the domain architecture guru in the team. Like his mind is, I have no idea how it works. We just sit there and like, wow, how do you think of all this? So it's absolutely amazing to see having a team like that works well together like that. So yeah.
So having a team is great, and I'm pretty sure that Prashant would be like extremely proud of himself and like the whole team, because you all have built such a great product. And to be very honest, personally, when Vishal connected with me and told me about you, and I read about EZiD, I was like totally blown away by the idea, like passwordless authentication, because right then at that moment only I was logging into another new website to remove background from the picture, and they asked for another password. And yeah, that is something like I also get irritated with easily. So yeah, that is something. So yeah, as we since we are running very short of time, but I genuinely have a lot of questions to ask, but yeah, I'll stick to few. um a personal question, more like, how was your student life, like before getting into the business and before actually started building? Like, how was the student life?
My student life was a lot of fun. So I honestly sucked at studies. I'm very bad. My 12th grade results are horrible. I don't even know how I got into universities, to be honest. Like, I don't know, I got a U in physics and English. Like, that's like, how do you get that, right? So it's hilarious how bad my university grades are. But I mean, my school grades are. But even though my grades are bad, my life is amazing. Like, in terms of student life, I really had a good time in that kind of sense. Made a lot of friends. A lot of international friends, actually, like a lot of from different countries and everything like that. Ate a lot. And my student life actually just revolved around eating, working on Gylo, which was my esports, like working on the two startups, Uni Eats and Gylo. And probably, and just, yeah, that's pretty much it. That was my student life. That's pretty much where I became very fat as well. So I would just say be careful on that bit. But other than that, it was quite good.
I mean, yeah, becoming fat is something like you can
Yeah,
ignore and
yeah,
move
yeah.
on. But yeah, so again, coming back to for the people in the tech business, any piece of advice you'd like to give, or is there any particular, being more specific to the question, like, is there any particular trait or quality a person in tech business should have to actually excel in the job?
Uh, Give me a minute. Let me think about this one.
Sure.
I would say you have to be a curious person by nature. Like, I would say curiosity should be up there. Like, the most important, this thing, one of the most important qualities should be curiosity. I feel if a person's not curious, then I don't believe they can build something good. Because I would say only if I look back at uh, my journey, it's my curiosity that got me everywhere else. I'm like, I ask this question a lot. I'm like, why does this happen? Like, how? I keep asking it even for the dumbest things. Like, I'm like, why? How? So keep asking those kind of questions. I think curiosity is really important. And the second important advice, and a mistake I made a lot, is that don't build a startup for the sake of building a startup. Don't force ideas, don't force startups, because when you try forcing something, it turns out to be shit. It's probably the worst thing you can possibly do. And whenever you force creativity, you constrain how you're meant to think, right? I remember I had this time after Gylo where I was thinking of startup ideas. But when you're forcing ideas, you'll think of the dumbest ideas and you'll try to make yourself believe that it's going to be the next big thing. But I genuinely believe that if you want to have good startup ideas or you want to build something great, you need to let your mind wander. You need to get bored as much as possible. And through boredom, I feel comes creativity. And you should just keep yourself away from like TV or music. When I say distract, like keep yourself away, I mean even don't listen to music. Like just keep yourself away from any of that and let your mind just wander. And that's where I feel like most of my ideas or creative thoughts have come from. It's by not constraining myself and not forcing ideas out of my mind. So two things are curiosity, be curious, and the second thing is don't start a company for the sake of starting a company. Oh yeah, and if you're doing this to if you think you're doing this to get validation, I would definitely say don't do that, because it's really, really, really bad trying to get validation through startup ideas or trying to build something, because the further you go down this road of seeking validation, the more insecure you're going to become as a person. This has nothing to do with tech, but has more to do with you as a person. So yeah, don't do it because you're insecure.
That's actually a very valuable advice one could get, one who's starting in starting on this career path. And yeah, so are there any major problems or any particular risk your EZiD is currently facing? And
Major problems. One is that we can't move fast enough because we don't have enough money, and we're too slow right now. There are a lot of business saying, "Hey, we want to use you," and we're like, "Yeah, we're trying to get to you." So that's fun. Other than that, major problem is nothing really at this point of time. The team's doing quite well. Everyone's doing quite well. It's just fundraising has the most effort right now. Also trying to grow businesses and trying to reach out to more companies, saying, "Hey, the next time you build a product, if you're using authentication, if you're a web dev or anything, don't use Firebase or anything like that. Use EZiD instead." And that's something. And I think second thing is, yeah, actually nothing else to add there. It's not many problems we're facing right now. We might be facing once we start scaling up, but right now it's in that sweet spot where we're like just gliding through.
right. So someone has entered. Yeah. So while we discuss this, so another question, it is more from a general perspective, from a point of view of someone who has just started into this career path. It isn't always what we have usually received from the feedback as well. It isn't exactly very easy for people to meet investors and to connect to probable clients for their particular product. So how does one actually connect with them? Like how does one start connecting with them to like grow your product? You would actually need a client base for that, right?
Yeah, correct. So for that, I feel like if you're building a product and you don't know who your first 10 users are, then you've built something and now you're trying to look for a problem. So I always believe that if you're building something, you should at least know who your first 10 clients are. Else you're building the wrong thing, because you will be your first client as well, right? Even you're your first client. So
Right.
when we built EZiD, I knew I was going to. So I would always say when you're building something, you should know who your first 10 clients are, or else you're building the wrong product. Or your core team knows who your 10, because you don't face the problem, but your core team faces the problem. Second, if you want to get in touch with your clients or you want to find businesses, so I would say it like this: when we reached out to, we did 100 interviews in 2 weeks with businesses, but we reached out to 700 businesses through LinkedIn.
All right.
And only we got 100. So the faster you can increase the volume, the more you can get, like that, right? So find scrapers on the internet. Like there are tons of scrapers that will help you figure out, or get LinkedIn Sales Navigator for the first month free. Find your 100 companies and go reach out to them personally, and then try finding the right target member there. Right? If because you're building an auth product, EZiD, I can't go to the marketing team and say, "Hey, look at my product." You got to figure out who your customer target is in the company. Is it the CPO? Is it the CTO? Is it the head of engineering? So have that written down, and then becomes easier to search like this. LinkedIn's the best. Second thing is go to Y Combinator Dictionary, go to Antler Dictionary, like the portfolio companies. Find companies that are in your target audience and find who the, because in Antler portfolio and Y Combinator portfolio and other portfolios, they always give the founders' names over there. Click on the founder's name, go to LinkedIn and try cold messaging them. Out of 100, 5 will reply, but that's all you need. Then you do that again, and 5 will reply. You do that again, 5 will reply, and you keep building that network up like that. Investors are a bit more harder. If you're at a young stage, I wouldn't say go look for VCs, go look for angel investors. They will definitely, you'll at least hear a no back from them. And there are usually directories for angel investors in each country. I'm sure even India has an angel directory. Look it up, find who that angel fits in your portfolio, and then send them cold emails. And you'll find out of 100, 10 will get back, but that's enough because those 10 will connect you to a lot of other people.
Right.
Or you get into fellowship programs or accelerator programs who can actually connect you and get you the investor meetings and everything like that. For us, Antler was great because Antler was the first one to invest in us. But Antler also becomes the same people who helps us connect with investors. So that became great. And the same happens with BIC or any other fellowship you join because they have built connections. And it's easier when they see someone doing good. They're like, because they also benefit by helping you, right? You benefit, they benefit. So they will do their best to make sure that you get in front of investors. So if you can get into one of these fellowship or accelerators, then that works out as well.
Well, that's great and actually a very sound advice. Thank you so much, Dhruv, for that. Yes, and also Xartup, we are also promoting the same, like connecting fellows with the investors once the traction score is decent.
Yeah.
So, yep, that has been like great a few things. And also I would have asked for any last piece of advice, but I believe you have given a way better answer to that just before. So yeah, at this moment, like as we reach out at the end of session, we usually promote few questions from the audiences. And as you told that we also have Prashant connected with us on the Zoom meeting. So if Prashant could also like unmute himself and connect with us, we'd love to hear from him as well. So I think he isn't in the meeting right now.
It was